Good evening and welcome to Catholic Peekskill. So glad you could join us for this Cablevision initiative in which we talk about all things that relate to our Catholic faith in the city of Peekskill. It's a long and joyful partnership. The first time that Mass was offered was in the year 1758 when a Jesuit priest named Father Ferdinand Farmer crossed the Hudson River to offer Mass for a very small group of Catholics in Peekskill. From then, the church grew out of its mother parish, St. Patrick's in Verplanck, and founded in 1859. There's also other aspects of the Catholic life of Peekskill, including the wonderful convent down by the train station, the Byzantine Catholic Church. We've interviewed the pastor of that church not too long ago. I hope you were able to watch that episode. Our effort is to talk about all things that relate to our faith so that viewers, whether they're Catholic or not, can know a little bit more about our parish, about our church, and our Catholic faith. So glad you could be with us. Tonight, our guest is Mr. John Bischoff. He's the superintendent of Assumption Cemetery. Parishioners at Assumption Church in Peekskill know that there's three main divisions to our parish. We have, of course, the church, which is the main portion of the church, but we also have a phenomenal Catholic school. But the third branch of our parish is our Catholic cemetery. And we take care of our parishioners from womb to tomb, and we're happy to do it joyfully in the most respectful manner possible. Now, if you thought the name Bischoff sounded familiar, it's because in a previous episode, we interviewed Mr. John Bischoff's mom. Mrs. Kathy Bischoff is our Director of Religious Education. That forms part of the church branch in which we throw much effort into forming people, whether they be little children, even into their adult years in faith formation. It was a joy to interview her. But our topic today takes us a little bit outside the boundaries of Peekskill to our Catholic cemetery, and we're very joyful to welcome Mr. John Bischoff. John, thanks so much for joining us on our show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Tell us just a little bit of a background, how would you say, the back of the envelope version of the basics of Assumption Cemetery. Where is it located? And
the Assumption Cemetery is located at 1055 Oregon Road in Cortland Manor, New York.
So it's outside of the city of Peekskill.
It is outside of Peekskill. It's adjacent to Hillside Cemetery, which the Assumption Parish purchased the Assumption Cemetery in 1893. And we started with an original 18 acres. And then in the late 1990s, I believe we acquired 14 additional acres, and that brought a total of 32 acres to the cemetery.
Wow. And
currently we have 22 working acres where we have interments and burials.
So there's at least 100 years worth of people being are buried at Assumption Cemetery.
Yeah, it's around roughly 119 years old.
And I know we'll talk about the new section in a moment, but there's plenty of space for people in the future.
Plenty of years and acres to go.
So it's located outside the city of Peekskill. I'm wondering if maybe that's because the parish was founded in 1859 and they had to go outside to find available land. Do you think that was the reason?
Yeah, I would say so. Back then, the Assumption Church was also affiliated with the St. Pat's Church in Verplanck, and in 1893, I just think that was the most readily available land for a cemetery, especially with future prospects to advance and have additions into the cemetery.
Gotcha. Now, I know many of our viewers would have been to Assumption Cemetery, whether for loved ones or even just to be present for someone they know's funeral services or interment there. I guess it filled up mostly starting from the road and then worked its way up that hill to the beautiful view on top of the hill.
The road that we have currently was actually a secondary road. The original road went from Oregon Road straight up along a stone wall right up to where our garage area is. When the cemetery started to fill up, they needed better ways to access the cemetery.
Okay.
And that brought about a kind of a snake design to the roadways. just to go back and forth throughout the cemetery and to hit each section and to find easy ways to go in and out without getting too lost.
Now, I know there's 11 sections, and we'll speak about that new section. One of the things that strikes your eyes as soon as you go there is that veteran section is beautifully arrayed with the veteran stones. Is there a section also for, say, for little children who die?
Yes, we have 3 baby sections. 2 of the baby sections are older sections that are within the older cemetery.
Okay.
One of the newer baby sections are at the top of the cemetery, where it has a nice view over the valley, and that's where the majority of the new babies will be buried.
Now, I know if you go a little bit beyond that, there's that land that was acquired. From who? Where did Assumption get that new land?
It was in the late 1990s that I believe we were approached by Con Ed, or we approached Con Ed. It was originally their property, and it was a 14-acre property that ran along the aqueduct.
Okay.
And it was beneficial for us to obtain that property, and Con Ed really didn't have a use for it as well. So it helps with our future.
What's the name of that new section?
The new section up in the back is the Queen of Heaven section. Within that section, we are actually going to have 4 smaller sections, which will be feature areas. We're going to have Padre Pio, our Sacred Heart of Jesus, Our Lady of Guadalupe, and the Virgin of El Cisne. And those are going to be 4 separate areas in which are just going to have a different direction of interment, and also it's going to be bordered off, and there's going to be a monument that signifies which feature area it is.
Each of those 4 sections. Wonderful. Will that be soon? That those?
Yes, the features. One of the features are complete, and I believe the second stone will be complete within another month. They are not in the cemetery as of yet,
Okay.
but we do hope to see them within the next few months.
Beautiful. We'll have a blessing of them,
Yes,
I'm sure, when the
absolutely.
time comes. Now, I know you did a lot of work to prepare those sections so that they're ready. Is there anyone buried in those new sections yet?
We do have 4 people that are buried in that section. 3 of the 4 are buried in the regular section, and we do have 1 individual that is buried in the feature area, and I believe it's in the Virgin of El Cisne.
Okay.
So that was our first burial in the feature area.
So how did you first get involved in working at Assumption Cemetery, John?
Well, it was in 2005. I needed a summer job.
Okay.
Coming home from college.
All right.
And my mom, for many years, was very involved with the church.
Sure.
And so she kind of got my foot in the door, got me a summer job. And at the end of that summer, it just turned out that I was able to obtain a full-time position. And then a couple of years after that, I became the superintendent, and I worked under our past director of the cemetery. And within the last couple of years, I became the cemetery manager, and now I have all responsibilities of the cemetery.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Now, you have some crew that works with you. Tell us about
Yes.
your crew.
I'm very blessed. I have a great crew. I love my 2 guys.
Yeah.
Gary Deal, he's been working in the cemetery for around 30 years.
Wow.
So he has a lot of knowledge that, I've only been there for around 8 years. So there's things that, back then that, certainly come into play, and I'm thankful to have him there. And also I have Billy Clark, who's an ex-captain in the Peekskill Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay.
Very, strong man.
Strong man and hard worker.
Yes, he's a very hard worker, and I'm thankful that I have those 2, and they make the job fun, and we have a little family amongst ourselves out there.
Good. I'm sure some of our viewers would remember a time when cremation was not permitted for Catholics, even though cremation is an ancient practice. And I know it was after the Second Vatican Council that the Church opened up the possibility for cremated remains. And then I understand there's a change. Well, of course, there was a change. It was actually shortly after I became a priest that you could do a cremation. And then instead of having a body present at a funeral, you could have the cremated remains present. Does Assumption Cemetery allow for burial of
Yes.
cremated remains?
We do allow for burial of remains. It's the Catholic tradition or Catholic faith that all human remains that are born or baptized into the Catholic religion be buried within a Catholic cemetery, whether it be a full body or cremated remains.
And so it was in 1997. I mean, it's been a number of years, 8 years since you've been working. Have you seen an increase in that
Absolutely.
practice?
Absolutely. Cremation is becoming more and more popular for many reasons. A lot of it's costs, a lot of it's just beliefs and people, whether it be a cremation or a full body burial. It is important that all Catholics that are baptized, complete the baptismal commitment and rest in a Catholic cemetery with other believers and wait the day of the resurrection.
Yeah. I remember when I'm reading that instruction when the church was first giving permission for it. It said a number of things like that you should treat cremated remains with the same respect you would treat a body, so they shouldn't be like on a mantle.
Absolutely.
Or divided or separated or poured or spread or scattered. There's a lot of different things that people do with that. What options would Assumption Cemetery offer for someone who would like to be cremated eventually when they die, or if they have a loved one that's chosen that way? What are those options, John?
We have a couple options. We have in-ground burial options for cremations. It would be the same type of burial, only it's not a full body. It's an urn,
Okay.
and it's treated and gets the same service as a full body. And then we offer above ground niches in our beautiful Stations of the Cross Columbarium Garden, where each station has 6 niches, and each niche can hold up to 2 urns. So it's perfect for a husband or wife that would not want to be buried in the ground as a full body, that they can be entombed in an urn in the columbarium.
I know that the people who, when we blessed that new columbarium, Stations of the Cross Columbarium Garden, which was it 14 stations that sequentially go recalling those steps of Jesus on the way to Calvary to redeeming us. They were just enthralled by the beauty of them. Do you get a lot of compliments on that?
Yeah, they're very beautiful. It was actually a first design or an actual first project to make Stations of the Cross Columbarium Garden, where each station would hold cremative remains. I believe the company that manufactured them, it was their first Stations of the Cross Columbarium Garden that they had put together, and since then I believe that we're one of their best-selling pitches.
Is that right?
There's a lot of cemeteries do have Stations of the Cross, but they don't incorporate anything else other than the stations,
Okay.
whether it be just statues or plaques within a cemetery. Ours are, luckily we have the niches, and so it's a place where people can go and say the stations and also remember and be with loved ones that are there.
Is there any other opportunity for memorialization on the Columbarium
Yes.
Garden?
We do on each side, left and right side, we are going to offer plaques, whether it be in loving memory or dedicated by, there's a few options for that, but it's a bronze plaque that goes on the side, either the left or right, and basically put into a family's name for memorialization.
I see. So whether someone wants to cremation and to have the cremated remains interned in the ground or above ground, there's options available at Assumption Cemetery. That's
Yeah, it's
great.
important, especially as a Catholic cemetery, that we do offer more than one option for cremative remains, as it's an up-and-coming thing, and we try to just accommodate all aspects of the Catholic religion and the faith.
Now, if you talk to any funeral director, somebody will tell you that many are opting out of Catholic burial. And so maybe it's fitting to ask or to give an explanation of why is Catholic burial important for someone who is Catholic?
It's important for Catholics to be buried within a Catholic cemetery, because as Catholics, when we're baptized, it completes the baptismal commitment to rest with other believers and other individuals that believe in the faith and practice the faith and wait for the day of the resurrection. And that's, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, as Catholics, we believe that, that we will rise again, that even our bodies will enjoy. At the end of time, when Jesus comes back, our bodies and souls will be reunited. So Catholics have an extra special reverence for the body. And for you, I would think it's a blessing to be able to serve that particular need of showing
Absolutely.
a particular honor to the body and inter the body in holy ground, because the cemetery is blessed, is it not?
Absolutely. And I feel very honored to perform the corporal work of mercy and to be able to bury and take care of Catholic individuals within our community and also other parishes. The Assumption Cemetery is not just for Assumption parishioners. We welcome all Catholics. And if you are not Catholic, if your spouse is Catholic, we would also have a spot available for you.
I understand. Okay. Have there been any times where you have really felt, John, that your ministry, I'm going to use the word ministry on purpose, I know it's a job, but it's in some ways also a ministry, has provided comfort to those who are grieving by helping them to do this corporal work of mercy?
Absolutely. There's a few situations that are very similar that come to mind. Two families had to bury a loved one, very large funeral. It was very hard to let go to that individual.
Sure.
So, we go through our normal procedures and, we place the casket on the lowering device and we set up flowers and, the family comes over and, they have the service. But at the end of these two burials, the families wanted to be more in touch or involved with the actual burial.
Okay.
So on our end, for the cemetery, we try to accommodate families the best we can. So what we did was we allowed the family to stand around and watch us lower the casket.
Wow, that must have been emotional.
It's very emotional for families. That's kind of the final goodbye.
Yeah.
So after we lower the casket, we give time for families to place flowers within the hole. Wow. Along with the casket. And these two burials that come to mind, they really wanted to just really be involved 100%. And so they had asked if there was a way that they can somehow put soil or dirt on the casket. So, we said absolutely no problem. So we had some dirt, close by, and we got some shovels. And myself, Billy, and Gary, we sat there with shovels and put dirt on the shovels for the family members, and they formed a line. And each family member that wanted to had the ability and the time to place some dirt on the casket.
Wow.
So
I could imagine you might sometimes get choked up yourself even when.
Yeah,
when
it's emotional. When you see family members and loved ones that are grieving over the loss of an individual. It's very tough, and on our end as cemetery workers, the only thing that we could tell ourselves is just think about it if you were on the other side.
Yeah.
So that's, the three of us, over the last few years, we've gotten more away from just having the cemetery as a job. It's more of, we treat it as a home and a place where we can comfort individuals when they come to the cemetery. It's just a known fact that nobody wants to spend time in a cemetery, and nobody really enjoys going to have to go to a cemetery and visit a loved one that they just recently lost. So I just tell the guys that if there's anything that we could do for visitors coming in, that we're there for to lend a helping hand and just help people out along with just doing our normal duties in the cemetery.
Do you get a lot of visitors at Assumption
Oh
Cemetery?
yes, we have a lot of visitors. We have a handful of daily visitors that come every day,
Every day to see their loved
multiple
ones.
times a day.
Amazing.
And then every so often, every other week or once a month, we have all types of visitors. And
There's certain days, though, I think when many people
oh
come. What would
yeah,
be among the big days for visiting loved ones at the cemetery?
Memorial Day
Oh, sure.
is one of the big ones. Mother's Day is a
Oh,
big
yeah.
one, and even Easter Sunday. Easter's a big day. All holidays, really. That's when families get together and they go and remember the loved ones. And
I know it's one thing that Assumption's cemetery crew is famous for being there and available to help and just a wave away, literally, from
yeah,
coming over and lending a hand any way you can. I thank you for that, John. Now I know there's the regular work that's day in, day out. Of course, as the funerals come in, they have to be handled in that order. Is there a seasonal aspect also to tending to a cemetery?
Yeah. The cemetery is very seasonal. The fall you have your leaves.
Oh, sure.
The summer you have your grass and the weeds that you have to maintain. And in the springtime, it's the time to go out and fill graves and topsoil, seed, and fertilize everything, and get ready for the summer months. So it's very seasonal. This year we were very lucky that we had a mild winter.
Wild winter.
So we were able to get a head start on some of the spring maintenance, so that in a few weeks that we'll be either caught up or a little bit ahead. It'll be good for the cemetery.
I was just up at the cemetery today. It looks beautiful. I congratulate you, John. I
Thank
know
you.
at the time of this recording, we're just in the center of spring where the leaves are
Yeah,
about to
yeah.
burst off the trees. What would be some of your biggest challenges?
One of the
managing
main
cemetery?
challenges that we have in the cemetery are the abundance of large bushes. The bushes over the years have grown and grown. It's very hard to maintain them. We only have 3, full-time employees. But this year, by this fall, we hope to have the majority of the cemetery contained in order with the bushes. The larger bushes we hope to possibly remove or trim them down, so that the cemetery looks a little bit more open, and not so much clutter from the bushes and trees.
Okay. Now, I know as anyone who's driven in through sees there's a small number of individual family mausoleums. Is that an option that's still available to people should they be interested?
Yes, it is an option that we would love to accommodate a family and have a mausoleum put up. We have, I think it's 3 above-ground private mausoleums that hold anywhere from 6 to 12 people.
Wow.
But they are pretty old, and they are all filled up. So we don't have any current mausoleums that have available space. But it is an option that we've discussed for the last, couple of years that if not a communal mausoleum, we would even be willing to have a 2-person or 4-person mausoleum available for a family that maybe they just don't wish to be buried in ground and want to be above ground.
I see. So now I know that as people pass, they go through the routine. It's always a time of tremendous stress and grief.
Mm-hmm.
Say a loved one dies unexpectedly. The family reaches out to the funeral home and they lovingly and respectfully care for the body. They would have a wake service normally at the funeral home, whether 1 or 2 evenings, perhaps afternoons as well. They come for a Catholic Mass, which is obviously something that the Church earnestly desires that families have for their loved ones. And then the interment at the cemetery. I know a lot of times if it happens that way, the arrangement is done through the help of a funeral home.
Mm-hmm.
Is there also sometimes people who come for pre-need that will look and find places?
Absolutely.
What is that process like?
Well, the pre-need process, whether they go to a funeral home or not, to look into the purchasing or the planning for the actual funeral, the mass, the casket, the cemetery, the plot, the location. Pre-need is actually, I think, as time goes on and individuals have to deal with, losing loved ones, they realize that it's a little bit easier on the rest of the family if certain decisions and, the most important would be the actual burial plot. To actually have that and to not have to go at the time when you lose a loved one, to have to go to the cemetery to pick out a location. It's a lot easier on families to come out just on a normal day, as if you were to go shopping at the store, just to look around and to get comfortable with the idea of owning a burial plot. And like I said, it takes a lot of burden off the rest of the family at a terrible time. When you lose someone close to you, it's very emotional, and the thoughts may not be in the right place at the right time.
Sure.
So a lot of families recently have been coming to the cemetery, and I'm more than happy, during the day to show families around the cemetery and show them what we have available, the different options that we have. And they don't necessarily have to make a decision right at that point. They could pick out a location, and we do offer payment plans. So, we try to make it as easy for the family as possible.
So, should anyone do that? I know we'll put the number for the cemetery. They can come and just see you during Monday through Friday, right?
Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. I'll always be at the cemetery. You could just pull in, stop at the garage, and I'll be more than happy to help anyone that would like to come and start that process of putting certain things behind them and having them in place so that the rest of the family doesn't have to do it at a wrong time.
Beautiful. So I know there's a little box there if anyone has any comments or questions they would like to have, or if they'd like to get a phone call from you, that they could do so. Any stories stand out or anything you'd like to share that I didn't ask you about regarding Assumption Cemetery?
No, that's, there's a lot of stories that, I'm sure most cemetery workers could come up with.
No doubt, sure.
But no, it's just, it's a privilege to work for the Assumption Church, and not only serving the church, but also the community and the surrounding communities, and, offering, the proper burial for Catholics and comforting the families along the way.
Well, myself as Pastor John, I'd like to thank you, not just for doing this interview, I'm very grateful for that too, but for the great work you do at Assumption Cemetery.
Thank you very much.
God bless
I appreciate
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for joining us for here at Catholic Peekskill, our public access television show. You can find out more about us and what we do on various ways. You can find us on our webpage, which is AssumptionPeekskill.org. There you'll find links to the pastor's blog, which is called Catholic Peekskill as well. Some of the old versions of this program are also available on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and just find the Catholic Peekskill channel, you'll see some of our previous Catholic Peekskill programs, and you'll be able to even see Mr. John Bischoff's mom, Ms. Kathy Bischoff, there as well. We hope you do that. But as much as we'd like you to visit perhaps our website or our Facebook page or our YouTube channel, we'd love to see you visit our church or even our cemetery or our school. Please know how welcome you are. Our services at Assumption Church are Saturday evenings at 5 p.m. and in Spanish at 7 p.m. And then on Sundays themselves, we have Mass at 8 a.m., 10 a.m., and 12 noon, and again at 7 p.m. in Spanish. Catholics know that they should go to confession once a year, and I hope you would take advantage of confessions as well. Anytime you see any one of us priests, you could certainly do that, but as well as Saturday afternoon from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Of course, if you'd like to find out more information about our cemetery, the numbers are there. You could call the parish or directly to the cemetery as well. Mr. John Bischoff would be delighted to talk with you and help you to find out more about what we do. To be Catholic, in a sense, is to live the grace of the sacraments in every way. Thank you for joining us here at Catholic.